Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva, and today we're going to get some insight into entrepreneurship. My guest today is Anthony Rinaldi. He is the president of the Rinaldi Group, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you for having me.
So usually I start my guests where you went to college. So where'd you go to school?
I went to Lehigh University in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
Oh, fantastic. So let's go back in time before we get into your college career. When did it all begin for you to know that you were going to go to college? Was it freshman year of high school, senior year? When did it all start for you?
I think as early as I was walking. My father was a very well-read but did not have a college education, captain of police in Hoboken, New Jersey. But he was all about education. And I was an only child, so he and my mom put a ton of work and a ton of time and effort into me, and as long as I could remember, we were always talking about going to college. The biggest subject or discussion was to do what.
Yeah.
And in the early days, as I started to develop, I would say mostly coming out of elementary school and getting into junior high school and then later into high school, I had an aptitude for math. I was good with math and science. Yeah. So at the time, I did not know which direction I was going to go into, whether it was going to be accounting or whether it was going to actually be engineering. I had cousins and relatives that were in both fields, so I started to, really ask them questions and dig in with them and literally shadow a couple of them, both on the accounting side as well as on the engineering side. Oh. And I feel like I've always had the aptitude and the interest and sort of the drive to be more on the engineering side of things. And that's sort of how I started to pursue the engineering.
So now you go from high school to college. You're at Lehigh. How did you get from your high school to Lehigh University?
Okay, great question. So in the early days, I was also a baseball player. And baseball is really what helped pay for my college education. So the long and the short of it is I was looking not only for engineering schools and schools that had strong engineering backgrounds, but I was also looking where I could also play ball. And that was a bit of a juggle because some of the better athletic schools that had great baseball programs didn't have such great competitive engineering departments. So that was a fine juggle. And one of the early things that I made a selection on was that I was going to college. Although I wanted to play baseball, I was going to college for my engineering degree. So that decision started to get me focused on schools where I could play ball, but where the most important aspect was going to be the engineering.
So now you're at Lehigh. Tell me a little bit about Lehigh. What was it like? How did you like the baseball team? How did you like the school?
I loved the school. I loved the school. In fact, the school has become a legacy for us because my son Anthony Jr. followed in my footsteps. He didn't do the engineering route, but he went to Lehigh 30 years later, played ball there. He did the finance. He went to business and finance. I did the engineering route. But Lehigh for me was a life-changing experience. I felt that it was a small Division I school. But it was big enough that you got the real flavor and real feel of what it was like to go to a college that played Division I sports. So great wrestling team as well, great football team, so I had all of that part of the college experience. But it was also small enough that it was almost like a larger high school. So. Yeah. It was intimate, knew a lot of people, made lifelong relationships to this day. Had a number of my friends who I went to school with who were in my wedding party. I was in their wedding party. Their children and their kids are just getting married now, go to their weddings. Some of them are in Philadelphia, some of them are in LA. It's been a great experience and one that I've taken with me my entire life.
So now, how does one go from graduating at Lehigh to owning your own business?
Yeah, great question. Great question. Again, when I came out of school, I went to work for one of the largest construction companies in New York. And at that time, that company was about 80 to 90 years old. And unfortunately, in 2007, 2008, that company no longer exists with the financial crunch that happened back then. But really through relationships and through some of the relationships and the networking that I had playing ball. One of the guys that I played ball with was a couple years older than me and was already out in the workforce. And he reached out to me with an opportunity as I was literally sitting at the kitchen table, typing out resumes and sending out resumes.
Wow.
And that's how it all really started. An introduction from a ball player that I played ball with at Lehigh, and that led to my going to work for a pretty significant construction company in New York that built high-rise buildings, both all three categories or industry sectors were office buildings, hotels, and residential buildings, which is what we do today. I sort of took that experience that I learned cutting my teeth at that company, and I brought that with me to this day.
So now, how long have you been, the Rinaldi Group, been in business?
We've been in business about 28 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So we started out small. And we started out, doing a lot of school construction work throughout the state of New Jersey. Back in the late 90s, Christine Whitman, who was the governor of the state of New Jersey at that time, they appropriated, I want to say, over $12 billion towards school construction.
Wow.
At that time. And they were looking to promote, they were actually giving districts and local boards of ed refunds and up to 40% of the cost of the construction to promote expansion, new school projects, expansions to existing facilities, and at the time I also sat on a board of education in my district that I grew up with in Secaucus. Secaucus. I went K through 12. I was a public school graduate. And ironically, on that board of education at that time, I want to say there were 9 members on the board, and I want to say 6 of us were all K through 12 public school graduates. So part of my giving back to the community at that time, I live in Secaucus still. Never left, married my high school sweetheart that we went to the junior prom together when we just turned 17. So, I have roots into that community, never left that community. And so I was active on the Board of Education. I was active in Board of Education politics, if you will. And I saw this wave coming where there was going to be a lot of school construction coming into the state of New Jersey. And we did a lot of that as the Rinaldi Group back when. Starting out doing small schools, public work projects, municipalities, athletic facilities, all around public works types of construction, all leading toward my building up a company that could have the things that you need in the private sector in order to do the high-rise type of projects. You need what they call bonding. You need what they call SDI, which stands for subcontracted default insurance, which is a special type of insurance for doing these large-scale projects. And I literally had to start from the ground zero. I had none of those things when we first started out. I had no investors. As I said to you, my dad was a cop. I lost my dad when I was my freshman year in college. So, I didn't have any financial, support. I had no investors. I had no bankroll. I literally started from the ground up. And we started one project at a time, and I put away our money and built up a little bit of a nest egg to where I had the ability to start getting the bonding and the things that you need to really go back to my roots of when I first came out of school, and that is to go toward those 3 industry sectors and high-rise construction.
So tell me, is a lot of your business a lot of engineers?
Yeah, a lot of engineers, a lot of architects. You run into, those are the 2 main disciplines. But on the engineering side, you run into civil engineers, mechanical engineers. They call them MEPs guys, which is mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and sprinkler. But you'll have a wide variety of engineers that are on the MEPs side, the civil side, as well as the structural side. And then you'll deal a lot with architects as well. So yeah, you're dealing with architects and engineers all day long.
And then you have your laborers that you bring on and do the work.
Yeah, and then you have what you call subcontract. We're considered a construction manager and a general contractor. So we will subcontract our work out to the disciplines. So we'll have, literally dozens of subcontractor companies, from companies that do the concrete to companies that do the mechanical, the plumbing, elevator guys, that type of thing.
So now, do you utilize colleges, such as the college that you went to find a lot of the engineers? Can these students from college do internships at your company?
Yeah, great question. The answer is yes, we do that. For a while there, I thought I was becoming the Lehigh baseball engineering recruiter, because we had a number of Lehigh graduates who were all engineers. Who played also with the baseball team, and my son Anthony, who had that generation, was sort of their recruiter. So we had a number of guys who were coming off the baseball team, a couple of them who were older than him, a couple of them who graduated with him on the first wave. They were all coming to work for us and cutting their teeth. They were fresh out of Lehigh.
But you get it from all universities.
Yeah, so I was going to go there. So this was Lehigh because, again, the way we were doing our recruiting was really organic. And it's a lot of how we do the recruiting today. And in fact, I'll get into it a little bit later on. My daughter now, who just graduated Montclair State University, is now, heading up our HR department, and she does a lot of our recruiting in-house today. But it would be really organic through people who have come to work for us. I had engineers come to work for me from George Washington University, from University of Connecticut. One of those graduates I had from the time he was a sophomore or junior in college. Today he's a licensed professional engineer. He owns his own company. I think he moved out to the Midwest. Wow. We have another young engineer who's one of my top executives now. I'm going to say he's like in his mid-30s. He's an NJIT grad. So we were recruiting a number of people from NJIT who were coming out. I have in-laws who graduated Stevens. So yes, the answer is, we always are looking for local schools and not only engineering. We also touch the business and the accounting end of it. The dollars and the cents and the money is a big part of it, and the accounting is a big part of it as well. So we don't only just strictly look for architects or engineers. We look for all sorts of backgrounds, including accounting.
So now, if students wanted to find you, they just go to rinaldigroup.com. Is that how?
Yeah, they're on our website. If they want, they could go. There's a contact us page. And then there's I think it's info@rinaldinyc.com, where they could actually send their resumes. And once again, my daughter, who's helping us and doing a lot of the HR and recruiting, she will look at resumes that come in. We just had a young intern who her dad was and is an elevator contractor for us.
Wow.
She reached out, cold call, reached out for an opportunity. I got to meet with her. I'll always, I sit down, I hire and sit down and interview every employee in our company.
That's great.
Everyone from entry level to interns to, senior executives. And I sat down with her, and as I sat down with her, I started to talk to her about what she's doing and what she's looking to do. And I was like, wow, this kid is, young kid. I'm going to say she's maybe her junior year in engineering school, and she's going to be a dynamo.
Right.
So we just had her. She just worked for us, and she was, our operations are also in Florida as well. So she just worked for our Miami operation.
Wow.
She did a summer internship out of our Miami operation. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Now we're coming to the end of our show, and usually I ask my guests, what advice do you want to give to the students, the parents that are watching? What advice do you want to give them if they want to get into going to college and becoming their own boss one day?
Yeah. Well, that's a big reach, because that sort of that happens with time. But the biggest thing is, I would say, is find what your interest is, and then try to expose yourself as much to as many avenues that will give you some information on that interest. For example, when I was in high school, and I said to you earlier, I didn't know, I knew I was good in math and science. I did not know exactly in the early days what direction to go in. I knew both fields were solid, but I wanted to really get more exposure on that. Not only did I go and shadow people who were in those different industries, but every chance I had in high school, and our high school was terrific at doing that, we would have, different career day field trips where, I would go to different universities. I went to Rutgers University, who has a 5-year, MBA program. And I went to on a field trip that I went with the high school to see what that experience would be like, what that background would be like, and I took as many field trips with the high school, both from a professional standpoint as well as a college standpoint, to get myself as much exposure and understanding to the different things that I might be interested in, and that really helped me start to focus the direction that I took in my life.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming on the show.
All right, thank you, Anthony. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
All right.
So you've been watching The Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. Until next time.